of launching a line for interior designers is often a really thrilling idea for a number of reasons. One is you get to create something that you've never seen in the market that you've been looking for 10 years, and I finally have that vanity that I've always been looking for. That's one thing that it can bring to the market. The other is you can diversify a revenue stream. So, interior design is probably the most one-on-one fee-for-service business out there, and it is incredibly unscalable. You can only do so many homes in a year. So this is an amazing way to diversify your revenue stream. And then for a lot of interior designers, it's a way of not dealing with clients one-on-one and getting some breathing space, which I know is a pain point as interior design evolves into therapy and all of those things that can happen. So if anyone is out there considering doing a product line, what's great about the panel is you cannot get a more diverse group of people. It's what they're creating, how they're creating it, who's buying their product. This really hits an amazing gamut of approaches to doing it. And I hope that what my goal for today is that it's very hands-on and it's very practical and not abstract. I hope people walk away with specific ideas. And there's not a Q&A at the end, but you can feel free after the talk to come up and speak to anyone. And I think that at the end of today, what's mostly going to come out of this is an amazing time to launch a line. There's been so many changes in retail, in how the interior design business works, and I think now more than ever, there's a craving to connect with the person, someone who's actually making or designing a product, and specific stories today are going to be I think, really inspiring about how people have gone about this. So I'm going to let everyone introduce themselves, and then we'll dive into some specifics. Xander.
Hi, good morning. I'm Xander Noori, co-founder and creative director of Xander Noori LLC. And we run a multifaceted design firm that's focused on interiors and product development. We have a branded lifestyle furniture collection that we launched a couple years ago with Theodore Alexander. And we have showrooms all over China where our product is shown, and other international countries as well, Russia, Japan, as well as the domestic showrooms that they have. In addition to that, we have sort of pivoted and started focusing on also doing white label design for all kinds of firms, from the ultra luxury sort of high-end to the trade firms, all the way down to sort of high-end retail. And it's all primarily focused on products for interiors, so furniture, lighting, textiles, plumbing.
What does white label mean,
Sure.
for those who don't know?
So white label is when you're designing for a brand that doesn't have your name on it as the designer. And we'll get into that a little bit, I'm sure, up here. A little bit more background on me. I've been in the industry for like 15 years. I sort of cut my teeth on product design and interior design, working for an esteemed firm in Los Angeles, and was creative director there, where I collaborated with the principal and designed products alongside him for many brands and many genres, from Kravet, Walker Zanger, Theodore Alexander, Formental, so many segments of products, and then went out and sort of jumped off a cliff and decided, hey, I want to do this myself. So, yeah.
I'm Christopher Grubb. I have a company called Arc Interiors. We do residential, commercial, high-end medical. I did not put my name on it. That's a whole different conversation, because there's a reason. We can get into that later. I have two product lines, or two brands. One is called the CG Collection. It is mass market. I like to say consumer-friendly pricing. I prefer the expression. And the other is high-end and luxury. I also host on House Tipster. It's an online outlet for homeowners and the industry. It's a lot of fun doing that. So thank you for having me.
Hi, everybody. I'm Leslie Shapiro, and I started my firm in 1998. I was in architecture and interior design. I always loved furniture, would always sketch it, wanted to build it, kind of became a woodshop groupie. But one of the things that I noticed is when I would go to shop for projects, either for myself or for the firms that I was working for, I could never find the furniture that I wanted to put into the projects. Or if I found the furniture that I liked, there was always something a little bit off, maybe proportions, finish, price, timeline. And after sketching for so long and after getting to know my resources, I thought, well, I'm just going to build it myself. And that's what I did. And I started very organically. It turns out that when I did set up a small venue to bring in some of my pieces, the demand was there. And so a collection was born. Not only was I one that was looking for all of the pieces that I couldn't find, a lot of the architects and designers were looking for the same thing. And so now I provided an outlet for them to get the furniture. So I have been in a boutique design firm for the last 21 years. I've been in a little space on Fairfax, which has expanded. And I'm doing it because I love it. And the industry has changed a lot. And staying small has allowed us to weather a lot of storms, but hopefully my experiences will help, shed some light for some of you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Graeme Allen. I'm a photographer. I took a little bit of a different approach to entering the fine art photography world. I hailed from a interior design focused family, so I kind of went into this world always thinking about what would look fabulous on your walls in your home. So I create work around the world in limited edition series that are produced in our studios in West Hollywood and are framed here in LA and then are shipped around the world to different projects and clients. And we run a direct-to-consumer e-commerce business. Over the past 10 years, social media has really done a lot, and it's allowed us to experiment with a product line, which has been really fun to kind of push photography to places it hasn't been before and see it come alive, not just on your wall in a 2D form, but in a 3D form. And I have learned so much in the past decade, and I'm also really excited to share today.
Thank you, everyone. I told you it was completely diverse. Everyone has a completely different approach. So, Christopher, I wanted to ask you, can you give us a timeline of what was your first product that you started, and how did it go from there?
So I want to thank Lux Magazine for the face tattoo. That if I'm using it, please don't take a picture. It's hot up here. So I was fortunate. I had a client who owned an import business of bathroom vanities. And I had done a house for him, and he thought I was talented, and he said, you should do a line for us. They wanted to be better, best showrooms and like that. So the first set of designs were, they say, pick anything out you want. We can resource in China. No. And then the collection did launch. Just to give you background, like the first designs, they sent samples over. I rejected half of them, the metalwork and stuff like that. Second set, I went to China. I was on the ground 41 hours to fly 38 hours. And you're a little dizzy holding up a thing telling people 2 millimeters bigger. So the first launch, I had one of the designs was nominated Interior Design Product of the Year, which was quite a compliment considering out the gate, and it was my first line. Them as a company, though, they didn't know how to sell it. And that's not a slap on them. They didn't know how to sell it, so they went big box. Unfortunately, it discontinued half of mine because for their market, it was too expensive with the consumer they were aiming for.
And your name is on the product?
It's part of the CG collection. My other brand, I realized I didn't say, is autographed by Christopher Grubb. We're in Hollywood, so it's autographed by Christopher Grubb, and the CG collection's the mass market.
Okay. How long ago is this?
When did it launch?
Yeah.
8 years ago.
Okay.
And like last year, it's through Home Depot, Lowe's, eBuild, and I think they did 5,000 SKUs last year because it's countertop differences and stuff. And then the evolution from that is I met a licensing agent at the Bold Summit in Palm Springs who researched me and said, "You have a line. Have you thought about hiring pursuing more product?" And sure, I like getting that check once a month I'm getting from my vanity line. We'll go into it more about rebranding. I added a brand and how do you position yourself. And I'm not on a TV show, and what was my strategy to get eyes on me to show this vendor, okay, we know your talent, but what can you do for us? It's like, here's how I can market you. It's not just here's my product and you guys go sell it. It's you got to push it too. Right. You want to get the sales. So I had a relationship with California Faucets down in Huntington Beach, and they have a patented style drain. The throat of it's a square, and it's really sensational. And the owners have known me and watched my career evolve, especially in kitchen and bath. I've got a lot of accolades in that. And I just launched 4 drain covers, style drains they're called. They just came out 3 weeks ago.
Wow.
And yes, go to californiafaucets.com. And then there's going to be 2 sets of faucetry that are coming out hopefully by the end of the year. That process has been over a year, and it's 14 months of development. And so this isn't just this instant. And then I just had a line of lighting launch with Theodore Alexander. I was in High Point last weekend, and feels like last year. And they picked 51 fixtures I designed. They could only get 29 done in time. I saw the samples 3 weeks before the show. So it was that holding your breath in Dallas. They flew them into Dallas because I was there speaking, and yeah, you're nervous. You're walking in like, oh my God, is this going to work, or they're going to delay it? So they're going to pick up the other 22 fixtures, and then my licensing team convinced them to pick up another 28. So hopefully next year there's going to be another 50 on top of it. So
Okay, so you had me at monthly check.
I like the monthly check,
Yeah.
but to clarify one thing is like on the lighting, a lot of it was prototype. They want to see the numbers. They want to see the reaction. And considering it was late, the press release went out a week before, there was no magazine sponsor, they're really impressed, the eyes that got on me. But it's going to be now value engineering, seeing how many orders there are, then production. I'm not going to see a check on this for 8 months at least.
Right.
Just to clarify, it's not right out the door.
And so, for example, the big box vanities, how often do you have to recreate new product for that?
They just optioned 14 new designs that I'm in development. I have a meeting next week. Part of it's marketing yourself. One of the owners thought it was a waste of time to have a PR agent, but I specifically hired a PR agent to pitch the vanities. They got it in hotel magazines. They're very specialized in that. So it was a strategy. One of the owners doesn't like the check, and it's kind of like, I sold 5,000 SKUs, you know. But they realize what my presence has become, hosting and designing and awards and stuff for that part of the industry. And so the owner saw me at KBIS and came up to me and said, yeah, we gonna start leveraging you. But I did have another vanity line I signed. It was still gonna be under CGC, the CG Collection. The tariffs killed it. So there is no check coming from that. You know, they optioned 18, and so people are scrambling to build a factory in Vietnam or like that.
Okay. Xander, tell us, I know that right now your work is both white label and licensed products, right?
Yes.
So was white label, which is creating products where your name is not going to appear, it's going to look like the work of another company. Is that a good way to get into the business?
I think what it comes down to is the product good? And for me, it wasn't about that. I could see how maybe it could be for another designer. For me, I have my brand, which is established. I have my licensed collection, which is all-encompassing, and it's very defined as modern. And what I wanted to do, and I think one of the strengths of what we can do, is design for multiple styles at multiple price points. And so we wanted to get into it to have more fun. And so some of the other collections that we're designing are not modern at all. They're very traditional or industrial, so kind of all different. And
So white label, you have more freedom because your name's not on it. You can try different things.
you have a lot of freedom.
Okay.
And I think what people don't realize is, all these products, like Restoration Hardware, for example, or any company at the retail level, at the high end, everything is designed by somebody. And most of these companies don't have in-house design teams. They source from designers, and I know many of them that are sort of behind the scenes. And those designers collaborate with the merchandisers, which put together, and the manufacturers, which put together the whole collection for that company. And sort of, it's all under the umbrella of their creative director or the brand that they have, and they know their customer. But when they come to me, they have a specific request, but we get to play in that sort of realm.
So if someone was in the audience and they're interested in potentially doing white label, they would contact the creative director of Restoration Hardware? Or who is the person? Who's on the masthead? That's the person.
I think that's the million-dollar question. That's why, you get an agent. I don't have an agent. I've just been in the industry long enough that you meet people. I think what someone in the audience or somebody listening would have to consider is, for a manufacturer to consider you for a project, they're looking at you to fill a gap. Either you're going to offer them something that they don't have in their line right now in terms of styling or bringing a new perspective, or they're looking at you because you have an established brand and you're going to bring them new eyes, like you were saying. You're going to bring them a whole nother level of clientele that they don't already have exposure to.
So they're going to leverage off your name in that way.
Can I ask, I call it OEM. What's the difference, OEM and white label? And I don't know what OEM stands for, but OEM was, it's a term like FOB. FOB, freight on board, it means where's it shipped from. Because I have a line that I kind of forced this manufacturer to take, but I was going to do OEM, which my name's not on it.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
OEM is kind of like manufacturer speak for...
yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah, I forgot exactly what it stands for, but basically what this means is a company like Restoration Hardware, because we already mentioned that, is sourcing from a manufacturer like Theodore Alexander or the like, because they don't have their own manufacturing. They don't manufacture anything. They source. So OEM is when the manufacturer sources from another factory, and the designer gets sort of caught in that. So we design the product, we review it with the factory, but ultimately it ends up in the showroom for X company. Okay. And that's white label OEM is kind of the same thing.
Okay, I didn't know if it was the same.
All right, so pivoting to Leslie, so there's no Chinese showrooms, there's no manufacturing firms. Leslie, brick and mortar was supposed to be dead. High-end, handcrafted furniture, in theory, was going to be put out of business by mass-produced furniture. And Leslie's bucking all of those trends. And you've ridden some big economic waves in the process.
Yeah, well, I think what I did that just came naturally is I just built the product that I wanted to see. I didn't think about it too much. I just went with what I wanted to do, and the people showed up.
Can you outline what you make?
What I mean?
What you build, what you create. Your product.
Okay. So I am a boutique design firm. I'm in Los Angeles, and I specialize in solid wood, and I specialize in very minimal, very sort of quiet pieces of furniture. They're heirloom products. They are signed and dated. My strength is that I collaborate with clients. So I have my aesthetic and I have my collection, but one of the things that I learned and really enjoyed as a designer was the process of collaborating with people. I did not want to simply have a revenue stream or import furniture and kind of set it up as a retail store. There's nothing wrong with that, but that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted the gratification of building probably one piece, unique pieces. Timing was very good because when I set up the studio, I learned that I was pregnant. And so there was no way that I was going on site to do interior design projects, which were already so labor intensive. And you're responsible for everything, and the logistics are insane. So what designing fewer pieces of furniture gave me was the gratification of designing art, essentially. But instead of designing a space, I was designing a piece. And so for me, that was lovely. And people came, people showed up. I had a small venue. I displayed a couple pieces, architects and designers. I didn't need a lot of people. So you have mass. I didn't have mass. I had a very small demographic. But since I was a small firm with very little overhead, I had everything I needed. And so it worked. And it has scaled successfully. I've been doing it for 21 years. I built my first piece 24 years ago. But I did it just in a different way. I didn't know how to do it that way. So I just sort of bumped along and had it happen, organically.
I just want to jump in. This is the way a lot of designers start. To your question about how do you break in, how do you get into one of these agreements where you're designing products for companies or a line for yourself. The firm that I worked at before, Michael Berman Limited, he did this. He designed sort of like products for his projects that he couldn't find.
Right.
And those products eventually became a collection of furniture, and now he's doing mass market. So,
yeah.
But you have a storefront.
I do.
Because a lot of designers put it in a showroom, and we should at some point talk about how much does this cost to do. So if you're going to put a line in a showroom, you invest in all of it. You put it in the showroom, they don't pay, they may pay for shipping, they may send it back to you. If you're going to go that route, storefront or through a showroom, keep that in mind.
And that was one of the things that I decided not to do early on, is I looked at having other people represent my furniture, having my furniture in New York or in Chicago, and I realized that it was already expensive furniture. It's expensive to produce because I do produce it in Los Angeles and I deal with solid wood, which just by its nature is a more expensive product. And since I don't mass produce, it's more labor. It's more labor intensive, more hours equals more money. Once I put that product into a showroom in New York, they have to double or triple the price, right? So now I'm obligated in my little studio showroom in Los Angeles to match that price in New York. Not everybody is going to want to come in and pay $12,000 for a table. And then I also realized how much time is that showroom spending selling my product. First of all, I have to outfit them with the product, so I have to build it, which is costly. Then I have to ship it. Then if it gets damaged, I have to replace it. How much product can I afford to put in that New York showroom? And at the end of the day, how much profit margin am I making, and how much time are they spending selling my product when they might have 30 other lines to sell? When it came down to it, it made more financial sense for me to sell my product out of my little studio and ship it to New York if I need to.
And I think we should add on later about Capsule Collection. You could do a Capsule Collection at a lower price point like
That's
Michael
right.
Graves did
That's
for
right.
Target.
Yeah,
so
it's what I do.
There's another outlet too. But Gray needs to speak instead of just sit there and look
Right.
handsome.
So, yeah, I agree.
This is also interesting. I'm learning a lot.
But so what's interesting is you have retail and trade, commerce. You have direct to consumer via brick and mortar. I know you also sell through your website, but this is primarily a brick and mortar touch and feel experience. And then Gray, you are direct to consumer with no brick and mortar in a totally different way.
Yes, we launched wholesale, I think 3 years ago. I am sort of similar to Leslie that I don't want to have a bunch of product, like be responsible for a lot of inventory. So we approached, people really love stores, and it's great. People can shop for artwork if you set up a beautiful. Anyways, we launched wholesale, so Neiman Marcus, Saks Fifth Avenue, Bloomingdale's all jumped in like out of the gate. We launched trays, we launched coasters, and we launched candles. And of those three, the trays are made on demand in Austin, Texas, and they're printed on this like beautiful acrylic, so we don't have to deal with that. The candles, do you guys have candles?
No.
They're a
I
real.
want to talk about candles.
They're a real hysterical market. But there were no photographers who even dared to figure out how to print beautifully on a candle. And we just went there and figured it out. But we had to buy into 1,500 units. But all of a sudden, Neiman Marcus buys 1,200, puts them in every store. So you're only left to sell 300. So there's sort of a beauty to it. It's just a matter of, you have to go. We opened a booth in New York now. In New York, it costs probably $30,000 to have your name and all your products on display for only like 4 days. So it's a huge investment. You have to realize, is it worth it? Is it? So for me,
that was worth it for you, that investment, the $30,000?
Huge.
Okay, will you tell people what's on the trays and the candles in case they're not aware?
Yes, I'm a photographer, and I have 4 books. My first book, coffee table book, which we all know and designers love, styling books and so forth. It's called Beaches, and it's I see someone with a puzzle. Yes, I went around the world for like 3 years, and I shot out of a doorless helicopter, looking down on the world's most famous beaches, and sort of started an interior design trend, which you can now see at IKEA. Of aerial beach photography, but I had no idea that this would become what it became. And this book, Beaches, was so popular and an overnight success for our publisher. Instagram and social media allowed us to see people styling the coffee table book into their home with a beautiful candle, a beautiful little bit of flowers. People were sharing these images. So we decided, why don't we bring photography to this space? So we decided to launch with trays. So the trays have the photographs that are basically luminous in the acrylic on the bottom of the tray. And our coasters are the same. And our candles have the photography delicately printed in like a glossy sort of high-end manner. So for us, it's been all about going from e-commerce to being in maybe someone like Leslie's store for people to discover us. And it's high, low price point. I'm talking really, not everybody can afford a $1,200 photograph, so let's give them a $49 candle, etc. So it's been interesting, but I'm a big believer in direct-to-consumer. Try to keep your inventory low. I still sign in addition every photograph we sell. I want to see the quality over, quantity, etc.
Can I ask him a question? You skipped something. You got up in
I know,
a helicopter
sorry.
and started taking pictures.
Yeah.
I think of you as a fine artist first. That the photography was gallery, and because you're just all of a sudden I just jumped in helicopters. And what were you doing? What was your path to get to that? Because you have an investment in getting in helicopters.
Yeah.
You said it was pre-drone that you were doing all this.
Yeah, before drones. My path was, I just went out into the world. 2008, there was a recession. I graduated college. I had a job in corporate America doing something I didn't want to do. I left kind of abruptly, just within 6 months. I made the decision I was going to leave and I wanted to do photography. And every gallery was closing, and I set up a little booth in a flea market in West Hollywood. And I love sharing this story. I'm super proud to have started in a flea market because it's where I got to talk to people and I got to learn what people were looking for to hang in their home. What was that magic that would make someone actually want to put something on their wall and look at it every single day. And through that connection, I learned that people were intimidated by the fine art world. They didn't feel comfortable buying from a gallery. They often felt excluded. And I saw like a whole world of creating approachable fine art photography that made people feel really good and joyful. And from there, I made a cold email to One Kings Lane. If you guys remember One Kings Lane, it was a online flash sale website business model, and it took off during that recession. People were shopping on there like nuts, and it helped me, learn what people. For example, I could release 24 aerial images, maybe 6 shot above the beaches in Australia, 6 in Hawaii, 6 in Los Angeles, and they would tell you, like, these 4 have the most clicks. And I would learn, like, oh, people love palm trees. Maybe I should shoot, like, the beach with some palm trees in it. So I got to learn data. So it was like grassroots to One Kings Lane, and then I eventually built and launched GraemeAllen.com. And basically every penny I earned for the first couple years, you guys probably can relate to this, I just put right back in to how do I get to the next helicopter cost or building a website, etc. So that was sort of my story, and now I have shot like 24 series. Only like 5 of them are shot from a helicopter. The rest are, I've worked with Disney on a fine art project. I've worked with like Google, but I mean, those are weird. I've done the Beverly Hills Hotel, allowed me to be the first photographer to shoot a project there. I'm about to release a project shot in Palm Beach. Palm Beach is like the most exclusive neighborhood. I mean, I've never been to a more hoity-toity, fabulous place, but hard to get people to allow you to shoot photographs in that sort of world. And anyway, I think one other project, which we'll talk about in a little bit, is if you guys have ever been to Palm Springs, there's a famous hotel there called the Parker. And Jonathan Adler designed it probably like a decade ago. And I shot these exotic animals living in the hotel. So you're greeted by a monkey, and then there's a zebra at the croquet lawn, and a giraffe, and your bartender's penguins, and there was an elephant. It was amazing, and so I've done a lot, but the aerial photography really was the big step forward into this design world.
That I wanted to say when you said that investing in the company. When I first started out, I did not have enough budget for flowers for the studio. We were so small, and I would look at, okay, if I spend $10 a week on flowers, that's $40 per month. I didn't have it. And so it was about figuring out where you were going to put money. When I really first started out and I got paid a nice check, I spent $300 on a fax machine. And I was so pleased about that, and I set it up near the sofa. So it's kind of about bumping along, You start small, you invest your time and your passion, and put whatever money you make, if you can afford to, put it back into the company in whatever area you can. And I personally think that starting at a flea market, not having $40 for flowers, this will prove how dedicated you are to the process. Because however strategic you are, whatever business plan you create, there are going to be hiccups. And the best thing that I can tell you is to be prepared for hiccups. Be resilient, be dedicated, and just keep going no matter what. And consistency is hugely important. Keep meeting people, keep accessing your opportunities and seeing, if somebody's got a helicopter, you're like, hey, Can I borrow your helicopter and go shoot some beaches? Just be assertive and friendly and figure out what your next opportunity is, because you never know who's behind the next door.
And you never know who your client is, because you said that you went from mostly interior designers and architects, and now you have a new client base.
We have clients sometimes that come in that, by the looks of them, you don't know if you should have locked the door before they came in, and that's the reality of it. And then you get surprised when they say, yeah, I'll pay cash for that $22,000 sofa. So you never, ever know.
But you said you're getting a new kind of end user who's buying it, not just people in the design business, end users who really want handcrafted,
both.
functional.
And one of the things that's been very, very surprising is that when we started out, again, we were a destination, so we had industry people, we had architects and designers that were buying and they were putting into their furniture. And then it grew into sort of a little cult firm where people knew about us. We had no signage, so people would find us, and I think that was part of the mystique and the magic as well. So we had sort of a design-savvy crowd that would come. And we're in Los Angeles, so entertainment provides a lot of disposable income. I did manage in the 2008 writer's strike. That was one that killed a lot of us, and I managed to subsidize the business by taking on 1 or 2 interior design jobs. So that worked out well because no one was buying furniture. What was I saying? Oh, the end user. So architects and designers and sort of industry people. But what I'm finding, which is so fascinating, is the millennials, people that we thought perhaps didn't have the disposable income to do it. This whole generation has grown up with tech, and they are craving something handmade. They are craving analog. They are craving connection with their art, with their furniture.
They want a story.
And they want a story, and they are willing to have, an apartment, 4 bare walls, but one gorgeous piece of art or furniture that they can connect with. And so you will be surprised. You will think you know what the industry is gonna do next year. You never really know what's going to happen. And so I would say probably 45% of our new consumers are people under 30, which I never expected.
For a high price point product.
For high price point, for product that is $6,000-$7,000 per piece.
Right. So Gray had his farmer's market booth. You have your brick and mortar store. How do you have any sense of what your customer is responding to? How do you get that feedback?
For my interiors or for product?
No, for your product.
For product, well, I think, isn't it amazing when somebody wants to buy something and put it in their house that we designed? Yes. I'm still just like, wow, it's so cool. Yeah. Ask me the question again. So
I know sales is the ultimate feedback. But how, if things are being sold in showrooms, how do you get a sense of how the customer...
The sales report. But part of what I love about what I do, I don't have to deal with the orders. I don't have to deal with the return. I don't have to deal with the call like with custom furniture. I do. Well, it just seems a little off. I don't have to deal with it. So the response is based on what's selling, really. And, it's like... Modern Bathroom actually is 9 years, and I think it was 8 years ago I said, you should do white. They're like, white? Because it was all espresso. And then I'm like, you should do gray. And then they're just kind of, because I know what's going on with it. So the lighting, like California Faucets, the designs, I'm flattered. They literally sent a press release and some catalogs, and the president emailed, it's like, we sold 4. And it's like, thank God. Because these companies are putting a lot of money behind us. A lot, 6 figures to develop this, launch it, market it. So you want to make sure it sells. And so the lighting with Theodore Alexander, it's kind of pre-order. Like, it's a prototype. Are they going to order? It's going to be 6 months before they get it. And so you have to plan that lull. Like I have a dimensional tile line that's going to launch early next year. It's being made in Mexico, but he's using me, I'm going to say, to really hit the American market and my presence and stuff. To market that, he tripled my percentage of like what my percentage is, which is good incentive. It's going to not be inexpensive, so.
For me, I travel to the markets, and the companies that we work with have large showroom presentations of the product that we design, and you can really interact with the customer, or even just sort of stand in the shadows and start to understand what the feedback is. Because the customer responds right away. They light up and they engage with the product.
And you're eavesdropping.
And so you get a sense of it.
Are they going to say something good?
But also for us, these other products are sort of made to order. So the order's placed, and then you make the product and fulfill the order. For us, we work with the manufacturer and like the merchandising director, and they actually set the market trend. So we're actually telling the customer what they're going to like. And it's kind of odd to say, but they invest a lot of money. Like you said, they stock this product in the masses. So they intend for it to sell. And if it doesn't sell, it's a lot of pressure on everyone. So it has to sell. And we take risks, but that's part of the designer's job, is to sort of set the trend and lead the market forward that way.
Well, and I think, you do custom, and it's what's missing in the market. That's the biggest draw of coming back to them, and what's like, I have this lighting line, you guys will all see it and go, oh my God, it was so obvious nobody's using that detail. And it's in my high end and my mass market. Nobody's doing it. I was going to go OEM with Hudson Valley because Theodore Isles was taking too long. But it's the customization, but you're also designing, keeping in mind, I call it a piece of jewelry, like that one thing that's going to get tons of press. They may sell 5, but it's a jewelry piece to hook them for media and get the coverage, and a trademark piece. And then you have to think what's going to sell and what has a little bit more style. And I think what happens is you're like, oh, we're going to sell it. My family had a retail store for 100 years, and you go to the shows and you're like, we're going to sell a ton of those. This one maybe. Well, the maybe's on the 5th reorder and the tons are sitting there. So you don't know what's going to happen with that. And the thing is, this is a long process. Xander made it sound like, and you take some design to restoration hardware. There's a lot of background on how you develop. I spent an entire year on speaking engagements and developing a resume and a press chart and winning awards, and here's magazine coverage. It's intense, but I needed eyes on me. And the manufacturers, who are you? Here's the eyes I can get on you. And so that's really important to keep in mind as well. You really have to commit. I had to contract my business to expand the product. I have to remember I do interior design because, I need some money coming in because of the pursuit. But you have to be prepared for that investment. And, I always say you can self-create, you can private label, and establish yourself as a product designer and use that to get exposure to. Or there's places in LA I was approached about fulfillment. I would design, they would fulfill it. I can't really get to it right now because I don't want to do e-commerce in that route. I just want a separate business model.
Like Christopher said, the process is long. It can take 12 months, 18 months that we're designing out. So like right now, we're designing for the later end of 2020 and 2021. And so you study market trends and, work with the merchandising team. But it takes a while to put all of that together. And
So what is a home category that you think would be the best one for a burgeoning designer to try and break into? Not candles, I'm assuming.
Maybe
but
that's,
what is it?
What
do you think?
What are you good at, and what are you known at? What do you like to do?
Yeah.
Because I learned this doing my vanities. They wanted this different style, and it didn't sell. I didn't like them. So what you're good at, what you love doing, is the enthusiasm. That's important. So it's really about passion, I'm talking to a rug company, 2 rug companies, one smaller, and it's like, is it going to be a vanity project, meaning my name's on it, and get numbers, or hold out for the bigger company who doesn't have the bandwidth right now? And so if you love designing rugs, it's such an ideal time. Like, I go to the shows, and there'll be companies that have a designer's name in the window. I've never heard of them, but they're big in a part of the country, and they're maximizing that. And they're using us because you submit a product, Like Greg can submit a piece of art, he has a story. So the romancing for marketing too, they want to interview the designer. What was the concept? What was behind this? A lot of times if a PR agent submits a product, it feels like an ad.
So it's a good time.
It's a really good time to do licensing. And it's really your skill set. If you do rugs and go in and just say, may I show you some designs? And you have to sell it. I'm a big fan of your company. I have some ideas I think are missing from the line. I design first. I don't look at product like my rugs. I couldn't look at it messes me up like something sticks. Then I go back when I'm done and look at what's in their product line. So I can say, okay, this is too similar, whatever.
Yeah, also, it's always good to balance both. I think passion is absolutely key. Like, designing is art, and so you have to start with the passion. It's authentic. It's what drives you. But you, at the same time, as if you want to design rugs, maybe kitchens sell best. So maybe you can be thinking of both. And so one might be paying the bills, and one is more like you're literally trying to push your way through with it. But never give up on what. Just because we might tell you today that, licensing sofas is the number one most profitable way to make money, it's like a whole, I think it's just really important everybody always remembers to think about that passion and what's driving you, and always work on that.
And what it is too is thinking outside the box. So I take pictures out of airplane windows. And it's commercial.
Yeah.
But what I did is manipulated them for a line for a presentation of rugs, and I call it Sky Views. And everybody's like, we don't see anything like this, And so don't subscribe like I have to look at faucets. I have to look at the style drains I did for California faucets. Like, oh my God, I got to think. No, just have fun.
Yeah.
And the problem too, when you start doing product, it's so fun and intimate and you don't have a client. And it's scary, but it's so much fun.
Okay, we're getting close to time. I did have one final question that I've asked everyone before so they could prepare for it. I wanted to know, what was your hardest lesson learned? What cost you the most money? What wasted you the most time? What can you share with the audience that by knowing this, people can hopefully skip this and avoid this? So Gray, what was your most hardest lesson in launching a line from zero to where you are now?
I mean, it's specific, but for me, it was building a website. I paid a fortune that I shouldn't have had to pay, but I think in the last 10 years, it's gotten better for people who are trying to build a website. It just was something where you should really vet candidates. There's so many great people out there who can custom build online, and you need like 5 references to make sure this is the right person to trust to build your website.
And this shouldn't be a $50,000 investment.
Exactly. I mean, No. It depends.
It's not,
of course.
it's not the 90s.
But I just think that for me, that was the hardest lesson I have learned, where I had no one to turn to and say, and even now for so many things, but the website is just important to always vet candidates and get great, it's just like interviewing an employee, like get 5 references and make sure, they understand the scale of what you want to build and communicate. But that's me.
Mine is kind of more big picture. The biggest lesson that I kind of learned, because I was thinking about this, is I got some really good advice once, and I realized that I fell into this. You cannot fall in love with your company. You cannot fall in love with your brand. You cannot fall in love with your product. And that's something that I did and I think all designers do it, because we put our soul and our passion into our product, into our brand, into our clients, into everything that we do. And then it takes it from being a business and making money and being profitable, and it turns it into a passion project where you're willing to, settle for a bad deal to get the deal. So you have to have. So for me, it's about having that baseline and being able to, know when you should walk out of a meeting and walk out of the negotiation and work with people that you love. All of those things are kind of, for me, That was my hardest lesson because I fell in love with certain designs. You push for them. You fall in love with, collections. You fall in love with an idea. And at the end of the day, all that's important, but it's all objective. And you should be able to listen to the advice of, an expert that says the scale is wrong. When you're in a product review meeting. And now I'm very, very malleable in the sense that when I'm in a product review meeting or something and we're looking at designs, everyone has an opinion and the people in the room are experts. And so often I get a company or a creative director or a merchandiser or a president tell me, wow, you're so easy to work with because I listen. And a lot of the big name designers shut people down and they don't want anyone's opinion. So I think that was the biggest kind of big picture lesson for me.
You triggered one thing important about doing product, which people are impressed. We can do production drawings. It's not just this sketch of like, oh, here's this thing, it's a chandelier. You better be able to do production drawings. They're going to get sent overseas. You're going to get shop drawings back. Make sure that helps in selling this. That was a big deal, our renderings and our drawings. I didn't mean to interrupt, but you triggered that.
What software do you use for that?
3D Max for the renderings.
Okay.
And they take a long time for the quality. It's like, oh my God, I have to wait.
Okay, so what's your hardest lesson then?
Well, my money failure was deciding to open an office in Orlando, Florida in 2006. I have no regrets. It cost a lot of money, but I have no regrets. I think the mistakes, specifically pursuing product, is when I started this 2.5 years ago. How many custom pieces, do you have pictures of your custom furniture? Sure. See that table over there, and see that there, and see that in the room? I didn't photograph them separately. I would have a huge line of custom furniture. Huge. Because as designers, it's like you said, oh, it's fine like it is, but can we change the leg, and can we add the arm, and can we put this over here? So unfortunately, that was a mistake. That was a mistake. I could right out the door have a furniture line. And I think social media, I fought it. I was under my company, and I just went on my own, and I had to take the word influencer off. I'm like, really? I have 210 people in a week, and we're not an influencer. You can't have an ego either. You have to take your ego aside. And Arc Interiors, I said before, I have clients I've never met. They call my office. They hear my hourly. I say I have great seniors. The senior can go out and do it. And I want to give that opportunity to the designers too. I tell the designer, you have to let go. It's about the client. Right. It's not about me, it's the client.
Okay, document your work, important. All right.
I changed my answer like 15 times. But here's what I'm going to tell you. I think my biggest mistake was staying too long and trying to convince people that were never really consumers of the furniture, trying to convince them why the furniture was good. Just spending too long in relationships that really were never going to go anywhere. So you pick your target person. There's going to be a consumer that loves what you do. You focus on them. You spend time designing for them, and forget about the others. You're not going to please everybody. You're going to do what you do well, and you're going to find your audience for it, and you don't have to convince anybody else that what you do is special. Just focus on the people that love what you do, and they will continue to come, and you will keep creating and learning from there. So I think I spent just a lot of time and a lot of stuff. You let the worms get in, and just don't forget about it.
Can I joke, correcting one mistake? My Instagram is the Christopher Grubb. So I'm trying to be more successful. They can tell theirs too, but that's my joke of trying to fix my error.
Right.
One more. Photography. You have to have good photography. People wanted furniture. You would make furniture, and they wanted it in their house. And so I didn't take the time to properly, professionally photograph it, so I knew it had been made. And once it goes to the client, they're using it. So, and you don't always know if that's going to be appropriate for photography. I can tell you stories. So leave a little band of time to professionally photograph whatever it is that you've done so that you can then have eyes on it.